Welcome back, my healthy friends, to another edition of the Wellness Talk podcast. I am George Batista, your host and your wellness advocate. Hope you guys are doing great, and we've got a great show for you today. Today, we're going to be focusing on lung health. Specifically, we're going to talk about COPD. Now, of course, you guys know my issues with lung health when I was a kid, right? With chronic bronchitis, or what they called asthmatic bronchitis when I was a kid. So I'm no stranger to this issue. But we're going to first tackle COPD because you're hearing it. Obviously, it's all over the news, right? The last, I would say, 10 to 15 years, pharmaceutical companies are coming up with drugs to treat COPD. You're seeing all the pharmaceutical ads for COPD and stuff like that. But what exactly is COPD and what's the issue with it? All right. So we're going to dive into that today. Specifically, we're going to talk about what are the signs and symptoms of COPD, what to look for, right, in that. How does COPD affect your lungs in terms of mitochondria? That's an issue. How does COPD affect your microbiome? I bet you didn't expect that one, right? So we're really going to dive into COPD. Again, what causes it? What are the symptoms? How it affects your body in many different ways. And then we're going to talk about what you can do, if anything, to deal with COPD, whether you have it, or obviously prevention is the best thing. Okay. But that's going to be our first piece. And we're going to be working off of a great article from Wellness Resources. And this is COPD protecting the lung mitochondria and microbiome. So we're going to dive into that. And then from there, piggybacking on that, we're going to talk about a second piece, again, from Wellness Resources, talking about lung health as well. And this is the 5 essential nutrients for lung health. So as always on this program, I like to present the problem, and then I like to present the solutions, right? Things you can do on your end to take responsibility for whatever we're talking about, right? You're not leaving it in the hands of Big Pharma. You're not leaving it in the hands of the medical industrial complex. You're going to start the process with you. And you guys know that you can do it. Of course, I'm here to share this information with you to see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, pass it along to somebody maybe that it can work for. So we're going to look at the 5 nutrients that can help to strengthen your lungs. If you are dealing with COPD, or if maybe you know somebody that's dealing with COPD, this is very important information. This is, again, stuff that has helped me throughout the years to deal with my lung issues. And now I'm passing that along to you. So that's going to be our primary focus today, which is going to be on lung health and strengthening them. But we've got a brand new segment also after that I am introducing onto this show. We actually have a medical contributor that's going to be on our show regularly, and that is Dr. Jeff Crippen. For those of you who don't know Dr. Crippen, he's been on the show twice before. He is a chiropractor. He is a naturopath. He works with people every single day through his practice, helping people stay healthy. He is also an expert in functional nutrition. Him and I have had some great conversations regarding nutrition. And when he was here, he talked about COVID and how he helped people through their COVID, especially with long COVID. He also helped people with spinal issues and neck issues and all these types of things. He is a fantastic doctor, but also just extremely knowledgeable in terms of health and nutrition. So he's going to do a regular segment on this program as a medical contributor. And this week, which is going to be our first one, he's going to be talking about zinc and cancer, right? It's going to be very interesting. So he's going to be introducing brand new studies. So this study is going to be on zinc and cancer. What's the correlation? How can you actually affect cancer with zinc? He's going to dive deeply into the studies. He's going to talk about, what the numbers are, what the studies are, and how basically, how it can help you in terms of if you want to, prevent cancer or lessen your risk of cancer. And zinc is the primary nutrient that we're going to be talking about. So it's going to be a great segment with Dr. Crippen. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. But again, he's going to be on the show regularly. So we're really excited to have him. So that's what we got on tap for you this week. Of course, go to georgebatista.com. Make sure you check out all those articles there as well. If you want to follow along, you can watch the show or listen to the show on the website. And you can check out the articles at the same time because, of course, I hit the highlights as I go through there. But, of course, check us out on all social as well. You can see us on Rumble. You can see us on YouTube as well, either way. But thank you for those who support us on a regular basis. It's really appreciated. But the main thing that I want you guys to do is to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with whoever's out there, whoever you can, because, of course, it's about paying it forward. That's what I'm doing with this show. I'm paying it forward, trying to share this information with you. So hopefully you can share it with your friends and family and get the world a little bit healthier. That's the whole point of this show, right? So again, thank you for being with me, of course, because I know you guys could be doing other things. All right, so before we get started onto our primary focus this week, I want to talk to you about my friends at Wellness Resources, because that, of course, is where I get my favorite supplements. Wellness Resources formulates the most superior quality nutritional supplements that deliver the most absorbable nutrients in optimal amounts to make a true difference in your health. For 40 years, this family-owned and operated supplement company has used only the highest quality nutrients, no chemical additives, the same nutrient forms used in clinical research, and enough of the nutrients to be beneficial. This attention to quality makes a significant difference in the health results you will see and feel. Now, you guys know I am a fanatic about the quality of supplements that I use. And that's why I've been using Wellness Resources supplements now for over 17 years, and I love them. Discover how Wellness Resources supplements can help you feel energized and well. Check them out at myvitaminresource.com. Again, that's myvitaminresource.com. Check out Wellness Resources supplements today. All right, guys, so let's get started. And, when I think back at those days where, when I was younger, I had chronic bronchitis. So I was typically, pretty much born into a family of asthmatics, right? My grandmother had asthma. My mother had very bad asthma growing up. I remember her being on an inhaler, having asthma attacks and stuff like that. It was scary stuff, And of course, throughout that time, I didn't necessarily had asthma, but I had what was called, or what was coined by the doctor who used to see me when I was a kid, it was asthmatic bronchitis. So, and I was pretty much told that I was going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And it was a vicious cycle, right? Because I would end up getting, a viral flu or cold or whatever it is. And then it would eventually turn into bronchitis. I would end up going to the hospital, or I'd go to the doctor, or whatever the case may be. And he would put me on antibiotics. And then, I'd be laid out for about a week. I'd be off of school for about a week or a few days or so. And I'd go back. And then next time it happened again, it was just a vicious cycle over and over and over. And it was only when I got into my 20s where I said to myself, okay, there's got to be another answer to this. I can't keep going through this constant cycle of getting sick and it becoming bronchitis. And in the first few years when I was dealing with this, I was like a victim. I said, obviously I was a victim of having to go to the doctor all the time. I was a victim of getting these antibiotics constantly destroying my gut at the same time. And, obviously my mother did the best she could do, but, she didn't know any better, and, again, it was only in my early 20s where I got tired of being sick and tired. And this is where I made the change. And I made that one decision that said, okay, I'm going to find a way to not have to go through this anymore. Now, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to find a way. And that one decision led to a whole bunch of other decisions that eventually got me well to the point where I didn't get it anymore. No bronchitis, no asthma. I strengthened my lungs. I strengthened my immune system. And to this day, I haven't had to deal with bronchitis or any lung issues, even with COVID running around, right? We all got COVID. If anyone was going to be a victim of COVID, it would have been yours truly, because I had terrible lung issues to begin with, right? So you would have thought, oh my God, he's got terrible lung issues, so COVID is going to hit him hard. Nope, it didn't. You know why? Because I took responsibility. I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to strengthen my immune system, and I knew what I need to do to keep my lungs strengthened, and that's exactly what I did. It wasn't rocket science. It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't anything sexy, but it was the same things every single day. Supplements, good food, staying away from the ultra processed food, Okay. Staying away from cigarette smokers, obviously trying to do the least, trying to have the least irritants in the lungs. And all that combined throughout the years got me to where I am today. And it's something that you guys can do as well. So I say that to say that, ultimately at the end of the day, you can take responsibility. COPD as a term didn't exist when I was a kid. Okay. It was you either had asthma, you had bronchitis, you had emphysema, but there was no COPD. COPD got coined later on, right? Years later. So, but, that being said, let's dive into it. Let's find out exactly what COPD is and what are the hallmark symptoms. So again, this is from Wellness Resources. COPD, protecting the lung, mitochondria, and microbiome. So COPD affects millions of people, right? Millions of Americans, and it's the third leading cause of death worldwide. That's interesting, right? Now, of course, there's a lot of debate about what is actually the third leading cause of death, but that's for a whole nother show. But COPD, it stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And sometimes it could be that cough that doesn't go away. Sometimes it could be, again, chronic bronchitis like I had, or emphysema. Sometimes it can be issues where you're just having trouble breathing, right? So, all these are hallmark signs and symptoms. Now, early detection obviously is the best thing. Early detection is always the best thing for any issue, whatever it is. It's always better to detect things early and to prevent something than it is to deal with it when it's, obviously full blown. But that's a whole nother story. So the chronic cough, the shortness of breath with everyday activities, and the repeated respiratory infections and or wheezing, also increased mucus, they're all signs and symptoms that can be related to COPD, right? So why, what are the symptoms? Okay. So, and why does this occur? So let's take a look at symptoms. Obviously, the main thing with COPD is diminished airflow in and out of the airways and the air sacs of the lungs, right? So you can have this constriction in the airways of the lungs, and the air sacs actually lose their elasticity and quality. So it's very similar to the elasticity of the blood vessels, right? If you take a look at the blood vessels in all the different areas of the body, especially in the heart as well, we talk a lot about the elasticity of the blood vessels, right? How they're able to expand and contract so the blood can go through, and how smooth that happens depends on how healthy your blood vessels are. How hard does your heart have to work in order to pump the blood through those vessels, right? That all comes into play. Same thing with the airflow in the lungs, right? If there is constriction in the airways, if the air sacs in your airways lose their elasticity, the walls to the air sacs become thick and inflamed and even can be destroyed. And this can lead to severe chronic problems and or COPD, okay? So that's the main issue. Again, so if you find yourself, obviously, if you're doing activities, you're doing regular activities, you feel yourself out of breath, you feel yourself, wheezing, you hear some wheezing, or, you feel some phlegm coming on when you typically don't get any, that type of thing. Of course, you go make a doctor's appointment right away and you talk to your doctor and you get those lungs checked out. That's number one. But again, these can be signs and symptoms of COPD and or some kind of lung issue in general. Okay, so that goes without saying. Now, what causes COPD? And this is where we get more into the meat and potatoes, because it's chronic exposure to lung irritants that damage the lungs and the airways that can lead to COPD. And number one in this is cigarette smoke, right? So, cigarette smoking obviously can cause emphysema, can make you more susceptible to lung cancer and those types of things. But cigarette smoke is the big one, okay? But it could also be pipe smoking, cigar smoking, all those types of things. But also secondhand smoke. We're seeing people now with COPD, lung cancer, emphysema, these types of things, who have never smoked a cigarette in their life. Why? Because they are victims of secondhand smoke, secondhand chemicals, secondhand fumes. They may work in one of those, factories, let's say, where it's an occupational hazard, where they're dealing with dust, dealing with vapors, fumes, gases, irritants that all increase the risk to their lungs, increase the risk of constriction of the lungs, can lead to inflammation, again, to lead to all these problems. So sometimes you can even see kids who live with smokers, right? Like obviously, you have 6 or 7-year-olds that develop asthma, and in the Bronx where I came from, asthma is a huge thing, right? Especially in inner cities, right? In the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, asthma is through the roof, especially with kids. And you could see that a lot of it is due to the pollution, right? Because especially if you live near a highway, if you live near the Cross Bronx Expressway or the Bruckner Boulevard or any of these big highways in the Bronx, and I lived near one of those highways for a couple of years, the fumes and the exhaust from these highways can do damage, especially if you are a kid and you have developing lungs, right? You're a kid, you have no issues with the lungs. All of a sudden, you end up with asthma later on, right? Maybe you don't live with a smoker, but you have to look at environment. Environment plays a crucial role, a big role, in if you are developing lung problems or not. So you got to take a look at that as well, okay? So again, we have smoking, we have chemical irritants, secondhand smoke, all those things can lead to COPD. Now, COPD can also affect mitochondria. Why is that? So we have to remember what mitochondria is, right? Mitochondria is basically the factories in your body, right? You have trillions of mitochondria all over your body that basically are the combustion engine. Basically, it makes ATP, which eventually makes cellular energy, right? And cellular respiration. So directly from this article here, research shows that mitochondrial injury within the lungs drives development of COPD. So irritants like smoking can actually cause injury to the mitochondria and make it very difficult for the mitochondria of the lungs to repair. Again, this can cause all types of issues to the air sacs of the mitochondria of the lungs. And again, they can become stiff, they can become abnormal, they can have abnormal changes, and they can thicken and again develop mucus, making it more difficult for the air to move in and out. So what they recommend here in those cases is research recommends the use of mitochondria-targeted antioxidants to help restore respiratory and muscle function to actually reverse COPD. So the first thing we're looking at as far as prevention and or just something you can do on your end is to take a look at mitochondria-targeted antioxidants. So we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into the 5 nutrients. What else can lead to COPD? How about certain chemicals? There's actually a chemical called triclosan, and it's spelled Triclosan. Now, what is this? Well, for some time now, researchers have known that triclosan impairs mitochondrial function in animal cells. Think of all the products that you come in contact with on a daily basis that actually have this chemical triclosan, okay? Specifically, things that offer a scent. So, for example, when you put those scented things in your cars, vapors from products like those air fresheners, right? They all contain triclosan, okay? And they can get into the lungs as well, okay? Again, all these products from things that you have on clothing, bathing, hand washing, or, different types of products, again, that you inhale can contain this product, and it actually can irritate the lungs. So again, another thing to keep in mind. Now, what about the lung microbiome? So let's take a look at it. The lungs and the respiratory tract indeed have their own microbiome. Think about that. Okay. So, a lot of people think about the microbiome in the gut, but your lungs also have their own microbiome as well. And in COPD, significant fluctuations and disruptions to the healthy flora of the lungs occur. Researchers found the worse the COPD was, the worse the lung flora or aerodigestive tract microbiomes become. So it's interesting because back in the day when they actually started to look at the human microbiome, and this is going back 20 years now, they thought that the normal healthy lung tissue and the microbiome in the the healthy lung tissue was sterile, right? Just like they used to think of the microbiome in the gut was just a sterile thing, right? And they didn't think that it really did that much. Now we know so much more about the microbiomes of the lungs, specifically of the digestive tract. Okay, but we're seeing here that microbiome is now becoming disrupted. Bacterial and viral overgrowths are a major cause of COPD flare-ups that contribute to the worsening of airway inflammation. And bacteria persists in the lungs despite multiple rounds of antibiotics. This is key here, right? Because when we look at antibiotics, right? Antibiotics, what do? They basically deal with any bacterial infections, right? They can actually help you, and they do. They actually can help you get rid of and or kill off a bacterial infection. However, we're seeing here that the bacteria persist despite multiple rounds of antibiotics. So again, this goes back to keeping your lungs healthy, even if you've already had multiple rounds of antibiotics. And we're going to talk about that. Okay. Again, the triclosan is found in air fresheners and all these types of things. So the first thing they say to do here is obviously you want to do anything you can to quench the inflammation and protect the lungs. Okay. So antioxidants, anything you can do on the antioxidant side can do that. Okay. Dealing with oxidative stress. There are many compounds that can help quench these things, but also physical exercise. Okay. Physical activity, it says here, has been shown to be beneficial in COPD. COPD is a mitochondrial disorder. So in order to make new mitochondria, exercise must be included as part of the regimen. And we've talked about that on this program many, many times, right? The more you exercise, the better your mitochondria works and the more mitochondria you make. So now we're seeing it here that it's very, very key that you exercise to not only help your mitochondria, but to repair your mitochondria and make new mitochondria. So antioxidants to quench the inflammation and exercise are three big things here that they talk about in this article to actually help with COPD. So again, that's just some information on COPD. We're going to go a little bit more into exactly the solutions now, but I wanted you to guys just to kind of get an idea of the problem of COPD, exactly what it is, and what are the mechanisms of action in COPD. So now let's take a look at the 5 nutrients that can help with lung health. And again, this is going to be from Wellness Resources. So this is 5 essential nutrients for lung health. We'll dive into it. All right. So the first one, and we'll just get into the list right away. The first one is astaxanthin. Okay. And this is what's called the antioxidant armor for your lungs. Now, astaxanthin is a red colored antioxidant. Okay. It's found in microalgae, basically. Okay. It's considered one of the most potent antioxidants known to man, and it helps protect lung tissue from oxidative stress. Okay. Especially when you have oxidative stress caused by pollution and allergens and, maybe even intense physical activity. Okay. So what does it do? It protects the lungs, obviously. It helps to modulate inflammation in the airwaves. It supports immune balance and helps exercise recovery. Okay, astaxanthin also helps to support mitochondrial energy and endurance, making it ideal for people with either low energy or active lifestyles. So those of you who exercise a lot, astaxanthin is one of the best things you can take. Number 2, vitamin C, our old buddy vitamin C, classic support for the respiratory system. Obviously, we know it's an electron donor, right? It's one of the main ones in terms of viral infections, right? That it's one of the first nutrients at the site of infection, vitamin C. Okay, it's an electron donor, but it's also an electron distributor, right? It's especially valuable during immune challenges and exposure to smoke and or pollutants. So what does it do? It supports collagen repair for the lung tissues, which is important. It enhances immune cell function, helps to recycle the other antioxidants like vitamin E and glutathione. And you can find high quality vitamin C in Wellness Resources buffered C powder, vitamin C capsules, and Daily Protector Eye and Immune. Number 3, N-acetylcysteine and or NAC, as they call it. This is for detox and mucus support. So N-acetylcysteine, a lot of people know, is the precursor to glutathione, which is the master antioxidant of your body. It's well known for thinning the mucus and helping clear your lungs if you're dealing with any kind of inflammation and or mucosal inflammation as well. If you're dealing with chronic congestion, bronchitis, stuff like that, it can aid and help you along those lines. So it promotes detoxification in the lungs and the liver, helps break up mucus and ease breathing. It restores glutathione for cellular protection. And from Wellness Resources, of course, it's found in their Daily Protector Iron Immune, Daily Detoxify. And also you can add to that, if you want to have a nice synergistic pairing, you can add glutathione ultra, and it would help as well to work directly with N-acetylcysteine. Number 4, vitamin D. Obviously, immune support and help with clear breathing. It plays a crucial role in helping your immune system function at its best, but it also helps to support the defenses in the lungs and help to maintain a balance of immune response. It helps to encourage production of protective compounds in the lungs, helps to maintain a healthy, balanced immune system, and helps with seasonal respiratory well-being. You can find vitamin D in Wellness Resources, vitamin D 1000 IU, 2500 IU, and even vitamin D 5000 plus K2. And number 5, last but not least, one of my favorites is quercetin, the all-natural allergy and immune support. Quercetin is a flavonoid. It's found in apples, onions, and berries. It's known for its ability to stabilize mast cells, which contribute right to the allergic response. We've talked about that many times. It actually, those mast cells contribute to histamine release, but it actually contributes to the overall allergic response and the sneezing, the itchy, the watery eyes, and all that stuff. Okay, but it also helps with the lung barrier integrity. It enhances immune response without overstimulation. And in Wellness Resources, you can get it with along with the phytosome plus luteolin, which contains quercetin in a phytosome form for better absorption, along with luteolin for natural energy support. So again, those are the main 5. We have astaxanthin, vitamin C, N-acetylcysteine, vitamin D, and quercetin. So those are the 5. And again, you can check those out from Wellness Resources, any of those great supplements from them. But at the end of the day, right now we're in the middle of summer, but eventually we're going to be getting into the fall. We're going to be getting into the winter, right? This is where you want to start your vitamin D regimens, and you want to start to fortify your immune system, because everything's going to be circulating out there. You got COVID, we've got RSV, we've got all these things that are running around out there. So you want to fortify those lungs. If you're a person who's got weak lungs like I did, take a look at these, okay? Right? We're treating from the inside out, okay? This is, again, we're not making any claims here. We're never making any claims on this show. What we want to do is strengthen the immune system and strengthen the lungs. And with these nutrients plus physical activity, plus good food, obviously, right? And, lowering the processed foods, all that stuff, anti-inflammatory inflammatory diet, all these things can help to fortify the immune system, and you will do better throughout the winter months. So, again, good information for you. Hope you get a lot out of that, and I hope that helps you. All right, guys. So I'm very excited for our next segment. We're going to have Dr. Jeff Crippen with us. Again, he is our medical contributor, and he's going to be talking about zinc and cancer, and he's going to be going over some great stories. So Dr. Crippen, again, who is a chiropractor, he's also a naturopath, and we're very happy to have him on this program. So let's bring in our friend, Dr. Jeff Crippen. All right, Dr. Jeff Crippen, thank you so much for being with me. I'm so excited to have you. You're going to be hanging with us now and then, doing as a medical contributor, and I'm really excited to have you. And one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you is because you're out there on the front lines. You're working with people every single day. You're helping people get healthy in all different ways. And, so I want your expertise on this program as well, and your experiences and everything. I know you've been on this program a couple of times before. We had some great chats, but thank you for being here, man.
Awesome. Great to be back. Always awesome to connect, George. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and your audience.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So we're going to be talking about various topics, and today's topic is on zinc and cancer.
Yes.
So this is going to be really educational for everybody out there, because Dr. Jeff, like myself, is into the science, into the nutritional aspects of things, and really following that science, and getting down to the nitty-gritty of stuff. So Dr. Jeff, take it away, and let's talk about zinc and cancer, and I'll pull this up here for the audience.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. And really what this study, really what we're talking about is zinc and cancer. This is a fantastic review. I actually first heard about it from a great acupuncturist, nutritionist, Dr. Michael Gaeta. And this is something that was published a couple years ago in May of 2023. And what they did is look at the connection between a mineral deficiency, specifically zinc, and the incidence of cancer. So before we get into this study specifically, where I want to start with is this idea of what's called triage theory by Bruce Ames.
Yes.
Is that something you guys have covered on your show before?
I've actually talked about triage theory a few times here. Dr. Ames actually is one of my nutritional heroes. So awesome. It's exciting.
Great. So that's fantastic, because he is honestly, as you're saying there, he is a true kind of legend in the field of nutrition. So what we're looking at with triage theory, just to give a quick recap for some of your listeners, is Bruce Ames came up with this theory in 2006, and what he said was, when the body faces a micronutrient deficiency, it prioritizes the nutrients for short-term survival over long-term maintenance and repair. So basically, it helps us survive. So if we only have a certain amount of a nutrient, the body, and its innate wisdom and intelligence, will send the nutrient to the most critical places first, at the expense of longer-term problems. So a real simple example he gave was vitamin K. Vitamin K, really high in dark green leafy vegetables, among other places. There's a form of it made by the gut microbiome, the good bacteria in the gut. But one of the things it does is help support blood clotting, right? We need the blood to clot. That's actually where it gets its name, vitamin K, for the German word coagulation. So vitamin K helps blood to clot, which if it doesn't do, you and I and our listeners, George, are dead within seconds. Right? If the blood doesn't clot, we're dead. So if the body has a limited amount of vitamin K, the first thing it'll do is have appropriate blood clotting. Then longer term effects it does is prevent arterial calcification. So preventing basically what's endothelial damage and cardiovascular disease. And then even longer term, it supports bone health and prevents things like osteoporosis as well. But the thing is, osteoporosis won't kill you today or tomorrow or next week or next month. It takes years to develop that. And calcification of the arteries, again, takes years to develop. So with a nutrient deficiency in vitamin K, the body will triage it or prioritize the short-term issues of blood clotting at the expense of longer-term issues. Right? And that's the essence of it. And anything you want to add or spitball on that before we kind of expand from there?
No, absolutely. And that's one of the big revelations for me, and in really studying, because it really shocked me when I saw that. But then it also makes sense, because the human body is such an exquisite, for lack of a better term, machine, in the fact that it has backups after backups. And it's beautiful design, because again, it's at the end of the day, survival is the main thing, right? The human body wants to survive, and it's going to do everything possible for survival. And the fact that he studied this, and he had many he had many people in the lab actually doing work on this.
Yeah.
And just incredible stuff. So it's something that people always should have in the back of their mind if they want to make sure that they have enough of a nutrient to do all the things that it needs to do. It's just a great thing.
Yeah, I agree with you, because to me it helped fill the gaps between my personal experience and my understanding of why that was happening. I'll give you like a specific example. I've been taking nutrition for, probably focused on the area myself have for about 27 years. But I remember thinking like 7 years in, 8 years in, each year I felt a little bit better, and I felt a little bit better,
Yeah.
and I felt a little bit better. And I couldn't really understand why some of those improvements were still happening after 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or 10 years. And now seeing that with my patients, this gave me a framework to understand that, because some of that optimizing vitamin K will support optimal blood clotting. Now, some people may think, hey, we don't want the blood to clot, and that's true. We don't want it to clot too much, but we also don't want it to clot not enough. We want appropriate blood clotting, which is what vitamin K does, as opposed to a drug, which forces it to happen. The vitamin K normalizes it. So it would do that. But then over a period of months to years to decades, it's doing things like supporting bone health and cardiovascular function. And vitamin K is a relatively simple vitamin, meaning it's involved in a relatively few number of reactions. So, but what it says is as we optimize that, some of the benefits from that will still continue to grow and accrue years or decades in the future.
Right.
So that's kind of the background as we were just talking about that. So let's look at the study. Zinc deficiency is a general feature of cancer, a review of the literature. So we'll kind of jump down. This is the abstract or kind of the summary, but this is a key line right here. We also discuss preliminary findings indicating zinc level measurement could ultimately become a useful clinical tool for cancer diagnosis and predicting outcomes in cancer patients. That's quite a statement, right? They're saying we may be able to diagnose and predict outcomes in patients with cancer based on zinc. And then the article goes through a bunch of things, but I'm going to jump to this table. And basically what they found is a connection between low zinc levels and esophageal cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, gynecological cancer, colon cancer, oral cancer, and other cancers.
Wow.
Right. And this is kind of what they did. So just kind of a quick summary. Multiple studies have suggested that circulating zinc levels could be used as a diagnostic biomarker for patients suspected of having or being at risk of developing malignancy. And among other factors, the author noted a direct link between zinc levels and the development of different cancer types, suggesting that this micronutrient has the potential use as a biomarker for cancer.
Wow.
So, which is pretty powerful, saying you can look at nothing other than a low zinc level and determine someone's at a higher risk for cancer. And we can look at that the other way to say, if someone has cancer, then one of the important micronutrients to optimize to improve their outcome would be zinc levels. And another way to look at it is, hey, let's not diagnose cancer with this. What if we wanted to prevent? And what it says is if we optimize zinc levels in patients, we can lower our risk of cancer. Wow. Right? And that kind of gets into this part. So zinc is a potential prognostic biomarker that says, hey, we can look at zinc levels to determine how you're going to do with cancer. And then zinc is a potential preventative method for cancer. It says there's a correlation between low zinc levels and poor cancer outcomes. Many authors have speculated that zinc supplementation could reduce the risk of developing cancer. And then it goes through all the studies that says, here's one example, by this group suggests that zinc supplementations could be useful. It's a useful treatment for hepatocellular or liver carcinoma. And then it goes in further details. So kind of conclusion here. Yeah. Extensive evidence demonstrating the prevalence of zinc deficiency, which means a lot of people are zinc deficient, and a wide range of cancer types suggests that zinc deficiency should be considered a relatively widespread feature of multiple cancers. While research regarding the potential clinical utility of testing zinc levels, blah, 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 the data suggests that zinc deficiency may be a potential biomarker for identifying patients at risk of developing cancer, predicting outcomes in patient with cancer, and can even use as a preventative meaning to prevent cancer, or adjunctive treatment, meaning a treatment to use when somebody has cancer. So
Wow.
that's a quick overview. What jumps out to you there, George, or what do you want to highlight from that?
Well, the first thing I want to say is because with zinc, in my opinion, you look at zinc a whole new way with this,
Yeah.
because people and the average person, they hear zinc and automatically they think, preventing colds and flus and immune
Yes.
system
Yes.
and in that aspect of it. But now we're seeing zinc actually even with cancer. I mean, we're talking about this is huge here.
Yes.
So I mean, this again goes to show you that getting the proper amount of nutrition is absolutely key in terms of not only just immune system and colds and flus, but just with all different types of things. Now we're seeing,
Yeah.
and we're just hitting we're just scratching the surface, and more that we're learning about this, and this is incredible. My question for you is, do they say here, in terms of the amounts or the optimal amounts of zinc that are needed in these types of studies?
Yeah. So good question. So I'll pull up one thing here to answer that question, and this is under the breast cancer section. So this says right there, the authors found that zinc levels in the hair samples from breast cancer patients were lower than the hair samples from a control group. However, they reported no significant differences in serum zinc levels between the two groups. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is by looking at a hair sample, you're looking at a cellular concentration of the zinc, which means does the zinc get into the cell as opposed to a serum or blood marker of it. So it's a reason to, one, say, hey, let's look at tissue levels of zinc, which would be like a hair analysis or a blood test called RBC zinc, as opposed to just zinc levels in the blood. And the second thing I think that's useful with that is this, in my opinion, this doesn't mean we should supplement with a zinc product, right? What it does mean, we should increase zinc-rich foods in the diet,
Right.
or have a whole food source of zinc. Why do we do that? Because these minerals, if we remember that periodic table of elements from chemistry class back in middle school or high school, basically certain minerals were in different columns. And what happens is if we take too much of one mineral, it can throw off the balance of other minerals. It's like having an orchestra, and if you have too many tubas, the whole thing doesn't sound quite as good. Right. So we want to do nutrient-rich foods, which for zinc could include things like pumpkin seeds, could include things like liver, right? Could include things like mussels, certain types of seafood. Almonds have some source of it as well. So that's it. And in terms of what we're looking for, it depends on the test. But for the RBC zinc, I kind of like to see it in the upper half of the range. That's kind of my marker for that. For the hair analysis, it depends on which lab we're doing to what we're looking at. And the other thing is there's something called a zinc taste test, which is something you can do in the office or with patients over the phone. We can send you a kit to do that. And what you can do is put a concentration of a liquid zinc product in your mouth, and you'll ask patients how quickly they taste it or what they taste. And basically, the more it tastes like water to a patient, the more zinc deficient they are. And the more they have a strong, dirty pond water taste, the more optimal their zinc levels are, right? So what they would do is put a few mils, or put a tablespoon or two of this in the mouth, hold it in the mouth for 30 seconds, and then just notice what it tastes. And that's something that, is a test you can do at home for maybe about $20 or so, and it can give you an idea of the functional level of zinc in the body. So those are 3 ways I would measure it. Hair analysis, depends on the lab for the number. RBC zinc, if you're getting the blood test, I like the upper half of that range, as well as that tissue zinc test by the zinc taste test, which we do in office, or we can send to a patient's house to do. And that can give you a functional test in your house to give you your exact level. And there's no reason you can't do multiple of those to kind of triangulate and get the best answer to that question of what is optimum.
Wow. Great information, Dr. Jeff. I mean, just incredible stuff. Again, shedding a whole new light on zinc and how important it is. And again, we're probably going to find out even more down the line of the things that zinc can do, because nutrition at the end of the day is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? And this is absolutely fantastic. So Dr. Jeff, first of all, fantastic stuff here. This is really great. And I want to make sure that, we shine a light on you as well for contributing to this program as well, and educating our listeners and viewers here. So for everyone who wants to check out Dr. Crippen, you can go to crippenwellness.com, and he's got tremendous resources there. You can contact him there as well, work with him. And, he's got some great stuff there. He's got courses, he's got all that type of stuff. You can also check out Dr. Crippen's book, timelessyouthbook.com. Again, an amazing book with amazing information. This is like just a little sample of stuff that he actually brings to the table in terms of health and nutrition. Dr. Crippen, do you want to add anything to that?
No, and if anybody wants a copy of this study or would like a link of how to do that taste test, they can message me through either of those websites in the Contact Us and just put Wellness Talk Zinc. You can get me there. You can find me on Instagram. My name is Jeff Crippen, and just send me a message that says Wellness Talk Zinc, and we'll get you a copy of the study and a link to be able to do that test at home.
Perfect. Excellent. Dr. Crippen, thank you so much for your time today.
Awesome. Thanks, George.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that segment. I know I did, and I'm looking forward to doing much more with Dr. Crippen. So thank you for joining me this week. Hope you guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, control your health. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.